welcome back to another SuperCoach video with me, JD. You are joining me for another special video today. In fact, it's a bit of a thank you video. So for those that don't know, George, Anna and I, the FantasyTakeTV team, we recently launched a website which is going to have additional content for you throughout these, at least the preseason and probably the actual season itself as well. What's going on with the website at the moment? Why isn't it loading the video? There we go. And it's also meant to be our premium offering for those that basically just want to support us in producing SuperCoach content and are maybe looking for something a little bit extra as well. So there's going to be different things. We've already got the first podcast out there, which is going through premium defenders. There's going to be more on forwards, rucks, mid-prices, rookies, all these types of things. We've also got leagues, private stuff in Discord as well, and some articles that we're writing as well, which are pretty good. I've written a couple so far. One of them I definitely really like. They're worth reading. I think they're worth reading anyway. I'm realistically, this is kind of just giving you access to the types of research we do behind the scenes that you may not necessarily see outside of videos or podcasts, and letting you read and kind of digest and pick through it yourself to see how it changes your thinking and your team. So if you are interested, please sign up. We've had a lot of signups so far, actually. And for those that have already signed up and connected it to Discord, the call went out to say, look, we know that we said we'll rate your team on one of our videos at least once before the preseason starts. But for those that have kind of signed up now and are founding members, let's say thank you to those that have done it, connected to Discord. If you want to submit the team and have a early preseason rating of it, then let's go. It doesn't count as a use. We'll do another one later. And I think this is quite interesting. So I've cut it off at about 12, 13 teams, which is a really good sample to go through to see what's in here. Have a look at some of the different picks, what's popular, what's not. And then what I've done is taken these 12 or 13 teams and put them into like a template at the end. So you can kind of see for those serious super coaches that are part of the preseason package that are reading this additional content, what do their teams currently look like? Who are the popular players? And for me, that always is a better gauge of the popular picks amongst good coaches than what you'll see in coaches ownership, which I know a lot of people are very into at the moment. Looking at that, I think it's a bit of a trap, but let's go through some of these teams and we'll see what sticks out to us. What types of players there, who's missing. And look, there's I'm not going to go over like Dawson 10 times or whatever it is, or Oliver 10 times. Some of these players I might mention once and then that'll be it. And for some of the rookies, look, if I've got notes on them, I'll talk to them quickly, but there's not a lot of point laboring through these. There's still so much to play out between now and round one. So which rookies actually get named and become the ones that we have to pick, who knows? But yeah, I'm not going to go over Green and Drury and Baker and all those for minutes on end, even though they could all be viable round one picks. All right. And then the other thing I'll try and do, at least as I go through it now, is for the picks I don't like, provide alternatives. Although there's not too many picks I really don't like at the moment. And then we can also talk about structure. There's a couple of structure things. One that I definitely want to write an article about at some point, which is forward structure and how many forwards is too many at this time of the year. But yeah, like I'll give some notes on what that looks like as well. Okay. First thing we do when we normally go through teams is look at how many premiums do we think there are. We're kind of looking for 11 or 12. 13 used to be the standard for guns and rookies, but that way of playing, it seems like it's going out the window, more value-based. So you're probably going to have less premiums, including the value premiums, and then you're going to be playing with more mid prices, maybe some elevated price rookies as well, which is where you're going to get your cash and your points to make up for having less premiums. So Dawson Young, that's 2. Oliver Bont, Steele, Green Mitchell, that's another 5, so up to 7. English Marshall, that's 9. So we've got 12 here, which is, I think, about the standard we'll see. I think we'll see a lot of 12. And then, some people will say like Young, Green, Mitchell, they're not really premiums. They're just given their pricing for the line. But look, it's close enough. We're going to count them. Okay, so ones that stand out to me in terms of premium picks, I think Young. I'm sure we're not going to see too many Young teams throughout this series. What's there to say about Young? Originally, I was not so hot on him. The one thing that's caught my eye in the recent preseason training reports, which get posted in the Discord, is that he is taking kickouts in the training. And if you watch my Defender Masterclass, and if you listen to some of the talk on the Defender pod as well, if you're going to pick Young, you need to see him taking kick-ins from Luke Ryan in the preseason to really be confident that he can go to the next level. But there has been a lot of hype behind him, which is a big tick. Yeah, it's just those kick-ins, and you'll be looking at the preseason game as well as the other match sims. Is he taking kick-ins? And does that still hold when him and Ryan are both on the same side? Are they going to Young over Ryan? Dawson, I love as a pick. I think most people do, and I don't think that's a big stretch. And same with Yo, as long as he's fit and healthy. The reports that, once again, I think came out this morning or yesterday was that he's been playing midfield and match sim, a little bit of halfback rotation, but his 2 107 seasons were midfielders. He did a 102 season at halfback. Either way, if he's healthy at that price, I think you have to lock him in. Go to Ginby, McKenna, Weddle, and Wilmot are 5. These 5 are going to be very popular. We'll see them in a lot of teams. Love all of them for picks now. Ginby, once again, the reporting that came out today looks like mature age body, could be ready for round 1 type deal. Impressing in training. They're going to find this mix between playing these older injured guys like Yo and Sheed and then blooding some of the youth, and he looks like he is going to be one that is up for the task round 1. So yeah, big watch on him. Weddle's been training with the mids, and who knows with the Hawks, but there seems like a lot of opportunity there. Wilmot, impressed. McKenna, I haven't heard a ton on, but he should be fine. And then Goda has been very impressive for track watchers as well. And I think in the A team for their last match sim, Goda was there alongside Hall at halfback. I think they were missing some other players that could potentially fit in there. Like I want to say like McDonald. I can't remember if Zeeble was playing, but I have a feeling he's above Zeeble anyway. But yeah, like good signs for Goda so far, although not locked in. In the midfield, we have Clayton Oliver. Now, I'm sure is going to be a very popular pick. He's popular picks in the competition overall. I'm probably not starting him. 700k is too much. I like to bet against the big dogs. And once again, I'm hoping to put an article on why that's the case, why I like to avoid the most expensive guys on the lines. It usually works out for me. It usually works out. But yeah, I'm not going to try and talk people out of picking Oliver. If you want him in your side, you love the security, the durability, the captain scores, keep him in. The fixture is really nice from about round 5 onwards as well. But yeah, I'm probably betting against him at this point. Bont, I hope, is very popular. He hasn't left my side since I opened as well. The case of picking him is very simple. You've got McRae, I was going to say, Dunkley. Also in this side is like on the screen. Come on. Dunkley's left. More CBAs for Bont. Baslenka and Trelaw both having injured pre-seasons. They've also picked up Lob as a forward, so you'd imagine that there's less need for Bontempelli to go down there, as well as Ugelhagen having another year in the system to develop as a key forward as well. So should all these things should spell more time on the ball for Bont. Plus he had shoulder problems and stuff that held him back a little bit. He should be good to go, and he should be value at this price point. Steele is one that I've started to sour on a little bit. I'm just hearing rumors, whispers, sources kind of talking to me saying that he's carrying something. There's something wrong. And it would make sense. We didn't... so the first session back from Christmas, he had the non-contact cap on. We saw some pictures. He didn't look particularly good. Then when he was doing full training, then I think he was somewhat out of it again. And just mixed messages. His value at that price is outstanding, and if he has a full preseason from here, I'm sure he'll creep into a lot more people's sides. But one that I've got a little bit of a fade on at the moment. I like other people around this price, kind of like a McRae. So that's more what I'd be leaning towards than Steele, but I understand why people have got Steele. Oh, and I should mention, I'm probably more of a Dacos fan than a Young fan at the moment as it stands. But we'll talk Dacos when we get to him in another team. All right, to round out the midfield here, we've got both Green and Mitchell, which I think if I was to share a team at the moment, it would have both of these in it. I like running 2 of the value mids. I'm currently putting together a piece on these, looking at their stats for who's going to break out next year, who looks like they're the best value. And I think there's enough good options in there that I probably would start 2 of them. And if you miss on one, trade to the successful one. I think it's going to be the right strategy. You could even trade down on this to someone like a Sheed or a Warple if they went off, and you could get out of this pick pretty easily. But I mean, LDU I think also looks really nice in addition to these two. So lots of options I like around this point. Oh, and Anderson could be the one that goes off as well. So yeah, like there's 4 picks around this price that I would all be interested in having a dabble in. So yeah, I don't mind having 2 of the value. This is a old school no for SuperCoach, but I think I'm okay with it. And then Hopper, everyone's got Hopper, not much to say. Everyone's got Ashcroft, not much to say. Everyone's got Phillips, not much to say. Everyone's got Johnson, I think, as well, not much to say. Baker is one of the dogs recruits that is standing out so far. There's talk that he may get games early, and if some of these injuries keep up to key players, then yeah, there's a chance that he does get a game early. Drew looks good so far from what we've heard. He's cheap, may not get a game, but good placeholder for now. Rucks, I think this will be the most common ruck line we see. It's also the one I had until most recently, which is English Marshall Madden. The news on this is that the latest news on this is English set out today. Was it today? It was sometime. Maybe it was late last week with, I want to say ankle problems, but it's something, maybe calf strain. I'm making up injuries now, but they're basically going to hold him out for about a week, see how he goes and then returns. If he doesn't return well, then jumping off English looks like it might be common. I must say, as a whole, I don't love the rucks at the moment. I'm not really in love with anyone in the line at the moment. Marshall is probably the closest to someone that I will start at the moment, simply because in the latest interview we saw that he's taking on that role as number 1 ruck. But St Kilda still needs to solve their forward problem, and who knows, maybe Marshall is part of that and actually get a different ruck in there as well. So a little bit worried about the ruck line as it stands, but there's not much we can do. I'm fine with these 3 for now, especially given at time of team submissions, people hadn't heard the English news. So I think we'll see a lot of that, but that may change at a later point. Forward line, Dunkley, Rosie, Taranto. These will be the stock standard 3, have been since opening. I'm sure we'll see some others sprinkled in, but love all of these as options. Nothing bad to say about them. Flanders has gotten a little bit of attention recently. Very promising talk of him during this preseason, kind of lighting on fire, good form in the VFL towards the end of last year. Looks to be basically lining up to take the 4th midfield rotation. So you have Miller, Rao, Anderson, and then Flanders would be number 4, taking over a lot of Swallows CBAs who had something, I want to say like 50-60% last year, like a sizable amount. If he was able to eat into that, get up to that 50% mark at 256k, we could see a really nice return, especially as a forward on that price. Allen, I'm sure, will be very popular. Latest on him as of this morning was that it sounds like he won't be playing any ruck, that he'll be just the Kennedy replacement as like a deep key forward. That sours me a little bit on Allen. I think I'm going to try and find other picks around this price, like a Flanders, like a McLean. Well, everyone's got McLean anyway, but yeah, add other picks around this price instead of running Allen. I'm not in love with this pick as it stands at the moment. McLean, everyone will have, and then Van Ruin, I think, is going to be very popular as well, just because of the rookies we've heard of so far. He's the one that has basically been talked about most as a lock to play round 1. He's a key forward, which is a downer. We don't like picking key forwards even for rookies, but he does play for a good team and he will get lots of opportunities at it to kick a bag pretty early. As I mentioned with Oliver, the D's fixture opens up around, I want to say 4 or 5, and they got a 5-week really good patch. And for someone like Van Ruin, as long as he's still on the side by that point in time, it could be really good things. If they're beating up on a few of those teams, he could be kicking 3-4 goals in some of these games, even as a rookie key forward, and be putting up 80s, 90s, even maybe even a ton if you get the right game and really spike in cash. So don't hate him as a rookie pick whatsoever. Overall, this team looks very good, very balanced. It is, I want to say, almost exactly like a team that I ran with only a few picks changed. Young for Dacos. I probably now would have McRae over Steele. The rookies I won't comment on too much, and then Allen is probably someone I'd try and move on. But this looks very similar to something I'm sure I've posted at some point in the Discord or shared with a couple of people. So I like this team a lot. And by the way, just because I have Dacos doesn't mean you can't pick Young, or just because I prefer McRae doesn't mean you can't pick Steele. It's just like my preference at the moment. But I don't think I can fault these picks. I don't think I can fault this team or the structure. I like it a lot. All right. Next up is bAps, who finished third overall, I want to say, a couple of years ago. So very good SuperCoach player, big anime lover. Shout out to bAps. Maybe the capitalized A in bAps is for anime. Okay. All right, let's have a look at this team. So Dawson, Yo, Goda, Ginby, McKenna, Weddle, Wilmot. These will be 7 of the same 8 we just saw, with the only difference being we've got Stewart here instead of Young. Stewart is a fine premium pick. I've mentioned it before, but if I'm not starting Dawson, Stewart's probably the next up for me in terms of the primo defenders, so don't mind that whatsoever. Midfield, we've got Oliver, spoken about Miller, who I'm not sure how much of Miller we're going to see. Has been up in my team until recently. Cooled on him a little bit. No real good reason other than the price and just trying to find value elsewhere. I don't mind seeing him in teams whatsoever. Bont I like. Mitchell I'm fine with. Doesn't have the second value pick, which is fine. You can see this team balance is a little bit different. Not having extra value mid here, so I assume we're going to see another forward based on the structure so far. Hopper, Ashcroft, Phillips, we've all talked about. Chesser on the bench here, worth mentioning that the reports have continued. They're taking it slow with him. They're aiming to get him into the pre-season match practice game and, potentially play round 1, but it doesn't seem like he's a lock. It seems like they're still taking it easy with him coming off some of the problems he's had last year. So Chesser, who was someone that I was in my opening team as a rookie that we should jump on, seems like he won't be there for round 1. Maybe a good downgrade target throughout the year. And then Bytel's the interesting one in this team, who's a smoky to get best 22 spot and probably a decent role at the St Kilda as well. So one to keep on your watch list, but don't lock in or anything like that. But yep, this is all fine. English Marshall Madden, we've talked about. We're going to see it a bunch more. And then, okay, so this is where this team's different. We've got Cogs in the forward line here. We've got 4 forwards, McLean, Sin, Van Roo and Drury. Okay, so this is what I was going to touch on with four forwards. I don't love 4 forwards at the moment. I think 3 is more than enough, and I wouldn't go more than that. And the very quick reason why is there's about 6 forwards this year that you're pretty sure are going to repeat. So you've got these 4, you've got Butters, and I would have said Cameron, but actually the reports about Cameron does leave the door open for number 6. But you've got guys like Heaney that could repeat as well, go 100 again. I don't see why not. So the problem is this doesn't leave room for any DPP. So to give you and look, we're not always going to get lots of DPPs, but the last few years we've kind of got a couple here or there that have been relevant. I think there's 2 at least that come to mind, which are very interesting, and I think are quite probable that they get, actually 3 that get DPP forward status at round 6. So Bailey Smith, with the talk that he has been managed, he's been having problems. Why wouldn't they play him more in that forward role, which we saw most last year? I mean, he only missed forward status by 0.2% game time. Something like that. It was 34.8% forward. He needed 35%. Why wouldn't we see that over the first 6 games if he's returning from injury, not at 100% fitness? So 1. Second, Petrarca was also close to forward status at points last year. Talk is that he may be playing more forward this year, getting that mix between midfield and half forward a little bit better where he can be most damaging. And, especially with guys like Brayshaw coming into the midfield. Now you've got Jordan as well. It could take more time, which sounds silly just given how good he is in there. But if you look at some of the best game-winning players, everyone will point to Dusty for this type of mold. But would you rather have Dusty, having 30, 35 in the midfield, or 25 and being able to kick 2 or 3 goals and maybe set up more? And I think that's the same type of thing with Petrarca, impact player. So potentially another one we get at 6. And then lastly, with Grundy and Gorn, this is another D's thing. We're probably seeing one of them be parked forward a lot, and I'm guessing it's Gorn. And yes, his scoring is going to come down, but the reality is even playing predominantly forward, he's probably going to be, 90, 95, actually probably 95 to 100 still, even with more forward time. So say you start 4, we get those 3 as forwards in round 6. I think you're already at a bit of a problem because you just haven't left yourself much room to move, especially if we get someone else that spikes up as a top forward as well. I feel like you could almost be forced into having suboptimal picks. But then you would say, so the flip side of this argument says, so which of these four should I drop? Which one of these is going to be knocked out? And the answer is I can't tell you because I think all four of them are perfectly reasonable picks. Cogs is the one that I like the least of these. I might even have Butters ahead of him as an option if I was looking at it. Maybe not. I kind of need to dig into a little bit more. But I think that's the issue with me, or the difficulty with me for picking these four forwards, is I just think you might get forced into a pretty awkward position reasonably early on. So yeah, take that for what it is. I mean, I'd be swapping out Cogs for someone else in the midfield, like a Green. This is what I would be doing with this. But otherwise, good team. Oh wait, my main dilemma is Stu plus Tom Mitchell, or a cheaper defender plus Steele. This is the comments that bAps has left here. Cheaper defender plus Steele, and he's currently got Stewart plus Mitchell. I'd prefer Stewart and Mitchell than cheaper defender and Steele at the moment. So I think that's how I'd set it up. All right. Here we go. So some of these do have comments. So 11 versus 12 keepers doing my head in at the moment. Can change Brayshaw by downgrading C-Mac, Miller. Brayshaw, C-Mac, and Miller are three players we haven't seen so far. Should be good. But like his early season fixture. Okay, I haven't looked at Fredo's early season fixture, so I'm going to take it for granted that it is good. Oh, this is a little bit annoying. Let's see if I can adjust the screen, get that full team in. Okay. All right, so I mean, this is the same defense we saw as last one, except instead of like Weddle, there's Gould. So a lot of defense been the same so far, which is fine. I really like this type of structure. I think, yeah, if you're going to run two primos, then Stuart Dawson Dacos, I think that's perfectly fine. And I prefer two defense setups at the moment. Oliver Bont, guess who? Seen him again. And then Brayshaw. Whoa. Okay. So this is what's different with this team here. None of the 500k value premiums, which I think is unique to what others are doing at the moment. Must mean that there's 4 forward premiums again. Let's have a look. Dunkley, Cogs, Rosie, Taranto. Yep. So gone 4 there. All right. So Oliver, Bont, Brayshaw, Hopper, Flanders, Ashcroft. Same ruck structure. Miller and McDonald. Okay. So rather than having the 500k option in here, a couple of things going on. We've got reasonably paid up premiums in the midfield. And then we've got some extra mid prices in the forwards that we haven't seen elsewhere, paid up mid prices. It's interesting because it bumps McLean into the midfield, which I'm not sure I love as an option. Yeah, so you can probably tell actually already, if you've been listening, what my advice would be. I'd take out Cogs, I'd move McLean forward. I'd probably put one of Titch or Green or LDU in your midfield is probably what I would do with this team. But yeah, so all of Flanders, Miller, and McDonald, so the 3 mid-price forwards are all in here, all 3 of them anyway. And Flanders and McDonald are the same, getting more CBAs. If you see that roll throughout the preseason, I think you can safely jump on. You're probably hoping for 50% plus CBAs, and then you could reasonably see them get to 400k plus, which would be great return for dollars and points at the price that you're starting with, especially as forwards. Miller is a little bit different, a lot of talent, but was playing forward last year and has been playing with injuries as well, which has caused pretty serious drop-off in scores. If he gets a half-back role, I am very interested, especially if he's healthy. There's not a lot else to compete with him back there apart from Dawson. He'll get DPP in round 6 as well, which might come in quite handy, especially if we're running light defenses, which a lot of these are. But it does mean that at round 6, you could potentially swap him back there and trade out someone else. There's fun things you could do with that. Open up maybe a defender forward, DPP down back anyway to swap between the 2 lines. But yeah, I don't mind Flanders, Miller, and McDonald, and I don't mind running all 3. That's a risk I'd be willing to take. But yeah, I'd probably swap Cogs into Green, Titch, or LDU. But I'm guessing doesn't like any of them as options, which is why Cogs is in there. I mean, even if you really liked Cogs, you could still swap out like a Rosie or someone like that to do the same thing. I said 11 versus 12 keepers. How many is this? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, and so this is, I guess, the other strange thing about this team is that with all the extra mid prices, it's down a premium. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, I think I'd probably try and find more value and get to 12. In terms of Brayshaw, I didn't really talk about it as a pick. I personally don't love Brayshaw as a pick at the moment. All the talk is he's going to be playing more outside. Fife isn't going to be playing midfield at all if you listen to the reports today. But they've still got to fit in O'Meara. You've still got Brody. Still got Sarong. And then you've got other guys like Erasmus, Johnson that are looking for mid-time too. So, yeah, I don't know. Apparently he's going to play more outside. I prefer him as a fantasy option to SuperCoach for those that play the other format. But I don't think I'd start him in either. I think I'd wait for his price to drop and then jump on when the time's right. He's always had some inconsistencies up and down throughout the year anyway. All right, let's have a look what's going on down back here. All right. Oh, I mean, yeah, this is the defense line I would have. So great, we love that. 10 out of 10 would start. Midfield, Oliver, Miller, Bont, McRae, Mitchell. So kind of talked about all these five already. This is one of the most stacked midfields we've seen so far. It must be light on the forwards, I'm guessing. Or, oh no, it's Draper. Okay, that's where we're light. First McRae pick we've seen. It's one of the players I've mentioned that I started quite cold on. I've gotten warmer as the season's progressed, but it's a little bit dependent on like Bailey Smith being out of the side at the moment. So yeah, we'll see how Bailey Smith returns, whether I keep warm on McRae or whether I revert again to someone like Steele. But yeah, this is fine. Once again, I don't love the Oliver pick. And to be honest, is there some Draper talk in here? Draper season makes his team feel so good, but I think I'd chicken out and find a way to get him to English. Okay, yeah, I mean, I'd kill Oliver to someone cheaper and upgrade Draper to someone worth starting. The ruck breakouts is, I do have a premium article on this. If you're trying to identify them, what do they look like and which ones of the current rucks fit the profile? Draper is one of the ones that is mentioned in that article. Although I'm not sure I gave a glowing endorsement. It wasn't a negative one either. But yeah, so remove Oliver, get Draper up, buy someone with the remaining the money you've got from downgrading Oliver. Forward line. Yep, this looks perfectly fine. It's a lot of the plays we've talked about again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And yeah, this is slightly the problem with having Oliver paid up in the middle is that you're down to 11 premiums rather than 12. And I think I'd still rather have 12. 12 with the value spread. All right, Cotzy. The Misfits. Defense. All right, the defense is easy to review. They're all the same defense. We've seen like 2 variations so far. I like it. All right, perfect. Midfield. Okay, we've talked about these 5 as well. This is like my type of midfield, which is the like 3 kind of premiums, 2 value, then Hopper. I like this. Ashcroft, Phillips on both on field. This feels really strong. Stack the bench with cheaper options. English Marshall here. Yep, stock standard as we've kind of talked about. And then Dunkley, Rosie, Taranto, Allen, McLean, Sin. Okay, so this is where this team has suffered for having Oliver, which, I mean, I'm going to point out. So the first 3 lines, great, all looks really good. But having Oliver here has really cost the F4 to 6. I mean, McLean everyone's going to have and is a good start. But Allen, I don't love. I'd probably try and get him up to like a Flanders, McDonald, a Miller for now. And then Sin, definitely, I wouldn't have here. I'd be hoping that you can either get to like someone like Bruce, if he is going to get a game, or if you're going to someone like King, potentially. But yeah, like playing a 123k rookie in the F6 spot doesn't seem to work out that well. Don't see why it'll be different this year unless we've got a lot that comes on. So yeah, this team looks fine apart from I'd probably be getting out of Oliver to spread the cash on F4 and F6. Even if Sin was better, I don't mind having Allen in there. Like if Sin was McDonald or Flanders or Miller for now, I think that'd be okay. A lot of people aren't going to want to get rid of Oliver though, and that's totally fine. I get that. This may be the first non-Oliver team we've seen. It's the first Crips and LDU team we've seen. Humph, are you messing with me? What's going on? First Sicily we've seen. First Clark and Bose. This is a little bit different. First Cameron. All right, there's a few things going on here. So defense, it's actually different, although it's not. Oh yeah, it is kind of different. Okay, so still 2 premium. Sicily and Dawson. If you are big on Sicily, I think that's totally fine. Scores better when Hawks lost. Hawks probably going to lose more this year. At least the same you would imagine as last year. Should be fine for his scoring. A lot of the threats, they seem to be moving out of the back line anyway, like Day's training in the midfield, Weddle's training in the midfield. CJ, I think, is the only concern for his scoring. Although the other news is Lewis did a ACL strain. And one of the things I mentioned about Sicily in my Defender video was that they're only like a couple of... Well, there's not much depth at key forward for the Hawks at the moment. I think they're going to play 2 rucks for sure. So they'll play like Meek and Reeves. And then so one of them will always rest forward, and then they'll play Lewis and Cotzy. If Lewis has done an ACL proper and needs surgery, then they don't really have much depth behind that. Can you imagine if they ran like Reeves and Lynch and Meek? Wow. But yeah, like I guess Sicily's a threat of being swung forward, especially if stuff goes on during the game. And so I'm probably still avoiding Sicily at the moment. Clark and Bo. So Clark is in full training, which is good. Has shown skill and the ability to score on the pass. Just very unlucky with a lot of contact injuries, like a lot of unlucky injuries. If you read some of the stuff he's been through, it's brutal. But if he gets a midfield spot round 1, could return value very easily at 315k, and I think he'd creep into a lot more teams, especially if someone like Yo was to get injured or to have setbacks or problems. I could see a lot of people swapping from Yo to Clark. And then Bose has been apparently training with all of the groups, but most heavily with the midfield, as he's kind of learnt the game plan. Midfield's where he's training. There's definitely the chance of him to lock down a spot, even in a Premiership Best 22 as a midfielder from round 1 and score well next year. Should be high on a lot of people's watch lists. He is on mine. Don't mind having him in the side for now as a placeholder whatsoever. In the midfield, so this is 3 kind of premiums and then 1 value pick, and it's the most expensive of the value pick. If you're only going to go with 1, I don't mind that because it means you can downgrade to any of the others without having to worry about cash in the bank, even though Humph's got a fair bit here. Cripps is an interesting pick with Walsh out. He could start hot at the start of the year, and it could be very reminiscent of last year where he starts on fire, people feel like they have to bring him in, and then he either gets injured or you've got players that return like Walsh, and Cripps' scoring starts to drop off a little bit. Maybe he starts getting tagged as well as the season progresses. But it doesn't matter because everyone else jumped on. You got the benefit at the start. Not someone that's high in my considerations at the moment, but I haven't ruled him out or anything like that either. So what's interesting as well with this team is Ginby and Goda in the midfield, just given how much has been stacked back there. Yeah, the thing I don't like about this is you have to bench one of Goda or Ginby, and I think they're both going to be reasonable on-field options, although the rest of the on-field options here are fine. All right, let's have a look what else is going on here. So yeah, first Cameron picker. The steel side bottom quote was that Cox is going to be rucking more this year. They were 50-50 ruck through the back end of last year. So it sounds like they're probably going to go that 50-50 mix again. Cameron didn't score as well during that period. Probably means he's more of a fade than a pick at the moment. I'd consider getting out of the Cameron pick. How I'd be doing it if it was my team, I'd probably be getting Cripps down to like green and then Cameron with your extra money up to English. That's probably how I would have done it. Might leave you a little bit light on in the midfield, or at least feeling a little bit light. Yeah, but either green or Titch from Cripps and then Cameron up. And then this forward line looks very strong. I like the F1 to F3, and if you're going to go mid prices here, I like all of those. Yeah. Hard to fault that team. All right, side without Yo. This is Pizza Safety's team. He's a top 10 Hall of Fame, I think, SuperCoacher. So once again, very good player. Saying it's a no Yo team, I guess he's got Yo teams as well. He's just not sharing that secret Yo tech. But I have a feeling Yo's in almost every other team. Seeing a non-Yo team is somewhat interesting anyway. And so what's happened? No Yo. Made that D3 spot feel a little bit light, gone up to someone like Dacos. Actually, there's both Young and Dacos in this side, which could be a little bit risky because those are the types of picks where if they don't pay off, it's actually hard to get to others unless you have people around the same price like Cumming or Redmond paying off that you could get to if these picks fail. But yeah, it could be a little bit tricky if you're stuck in no man's land with these types of picks. Young, I'm still a little bit cool on. I'd prefer Dacos. Dawson's, yep, all good. Caulfield, I think this is the first Caulfield we've seen. Someone I've had in teams at points throughout the year. Rebounding halfback, a couple of photos we've seen of him look pretty good. But he did have some injury setbacks towards the end of Christmas, start of this year. So he really needs to finish out the preseason strong. He's like Hunter Clark in the sense he's had a lot of unlucky injuries and a lot of injury history, and we need to see him get through a preseason to make him a pickable option. Will Gould is in here for the culture. Who knows if he'll actually ever get a game. In the midfield, all right, so we've got a second LDU enjoyer. We've also got Parrish, first Parrish pick. Seen a few people, actually, I think it might have been Pizza leading the talk that Parrish is a 2.5% owned or something, which I had no idea what he was owned. But it, feels unders, and I know that's probably fair. The talk has been that Scott is going to play Essendon players in their best positions. For Parrish, you'd imagine that's on ball. I can't see that really changing. Had a down year last year with a couple of things going on, but and I guess the worry for Parrish is that his preseason was interrupted at the start with no real clarity from the club as to why. Track watchers didn't get to pick up why either. So he's a bit of wait and see, a little bit like Steele. These slow preseason starts can be a bit of a red flag, especially if you're not getting proper word on what's going on. So I have both of these in one side. It actually makes me pretty nervous. I'd probably be getting out of one of these, if not both. And then everything else here kind of looks fine. Johnson on field, or basically having a rookie M8 that isn't Phillips. I'm a little bit unsure about at the moment, but we'll see what pops up as the preseason progresses. Stock standard rucks. Oh, okay, we've got Butters here, which I don't mind. As I said, if you want to pick Butters over Cogs, I'd be cool with that. If you want to pick Butters over Rosie, I'd be cool with that as well. I think he's got the higher ceiling of the two, as long as he gets comparable midfield time. It's just the injury history's worth, which is what'll scare a lot of people off Butters. I still don't love picking 4 forwards, though. And you can probably guess what my feedback would be. I would be getting rid of someone like Butters to put in, or like Rosie to put in a Green or a Tom Mitchell in the midfield spot as well. Bumps Johnson off the field. The only concern, I guess, would be that you're then playing another poor rookie in your forward line. How is that happening? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It's 13 primos. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah. Thanks for viewing in to watch JD counts to 13. So I guess this is the trade-off with a 13 premium team, and why it's probably going to fall out of vogue a little bit is that the trade-off is that you're going to have to run a cheaper rookie at M8 or F6, and if you can't find a good one, you're going to be stuck with 40-point hole in your side for the opening rounds until you can fix that, which is a pretty big disadvantage. Oh, I'm also guessing that, if Dacos goes down to Yo, for example, or Young goes down to Yo, you free up 150k, you fix that rookie spot that's broken with a mid-pricer, and that's the trade-off for 12 team with an extra mid-pricer versus 13 with an extra rookie on field. It's a good illustration of that, actually. I'm glad we got that example in there. Guigo, I think that's how you pronounce your name. I've never said it out loud before. All right, what do we got going on here? Houston, okay. Mills, no Oliver. Parrish and Steele. Okay, Lysette. Whoa, this is a little bit of a left field team as well. Okay. Let's do the primo counts. We've got 2. We got 4, that's 6, 8. And then we've got 12. So back to more stock standard 12. Caulfield we talked about. Like him as an option, like him as a placeholder. Houston is interesting. One of the ones I mentioned as a smoky, I could see him being one of the ones that gets into the top 6 defenders that people haven't talked about, haven't been looking at. Talk is he could be playing half back, then maybe onto a wing as well, and he scores well in a lot of different positions. The problem is he gets used like a bit of a Swiss Army knife, so who knows where he plays this year, whether that's going to lead to good scoring for him in the Port system. It should, and he could be the one that surprises. Not my cup of tea at the moment until I see something that makes me really fall in love with him, but don't hate him as a unique option if you're trying to find someone really unique. Mills is a unique option I don't really like, and it's kind of similar to Houston, which is we saw Horst use him as a break glass in case of emergency type midfielder where Swans concede a couple of goals quickly. Mills is all of a sudden behind the ball, scoring very little in patches. When he was on the ball, had some of the best scoring of any of the mids, really, but kind of just don't trust that he's going to get that for a consistent period, especially at the start of the year. And given the price you're paying, the downside risk is pretty high as well. He drops a couple of poor scores and everyone can pick him up at 580, 570, 560 type thing. You'd be feeling pretty bad about that. So yeah, Mills is a pass for me for now. Mills, Parrish, and Steele is a very unique midfield, I would imagine. I don't know what ownership percentage is, but I can't imagine any of those are that high. Maybe Steele is, but Mills and Parrish is not. Is this the first Dom Sheed team we've seen? The reports on Dom Sheed continue to be good. Sounds like he's playing on ball. Preseason has been fit and firing so far. Only concerns is that his previous best, even with lots of CBAs, was only, I want to say, about 90, which I think would be okay at his price. But he has to go career best after having significant time off. And we saw others do it last year, but yeah, that's what you're kind of chasing with him as an option here. Lysette is probably the cheapest ruck option that is interesting to me coming off injury. I think the concern for Port would be that we saw Finlayson, or with Lysette would be that we saw Finlayson as a viable ruck last year, and we also saw Teagle Hayes, and I think they've got another one on their list as well, all that could threaten for Lysette's spot. I mean, I think Lysette's the best ruck of all of them at the moment, but his job security could be threatened throughout the year, and they could play 2 rucks throughout the year as well. I think also Dixon's rucked for them. It's quite interesting, and I don't know if that combination of things kind of limits his scoring. If he was if he was sub 400, I think I'd be more interested in this pick, but it just seems a little bit too dear in price for the risk attached to it at the moment. And then, yeah, 4 premium forward line, kind of mentioned it, not my favorite at the moment. And it's combined with having to run a cheap F6, which I also don't like at the moment. And that's because defense is stacked, so McKenna's sitting on the bench at D7, which does not seem good. So I would probably be, at a minimum, turning Caulfield into Wilmot. And then in your forward line, you can upgrade someone like a Green with the 80, 90K you've got to an Allen or a King or a Bruce or something like that. And that's probably how I'd fix that. I'd also once again look at removing Cogs, putting in another value mid, which would be hard to do with your team with Hopper and Cheat, admittedly. Interesting team. Interesting. All right. Jimmy Baker, was it? Geez, I really should try and speed these up. We're like, 40 minutes plus in already? How many have I got to go? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more to go. Okay. And then I've still got to go through the combined team. All right, defense looks good here. I don't think there's anyone new to talk about per se. Yep, still with Yo, but then with Bose over some of the other options, like instead of like a Ginby or a Caulfield, so it's about 80 or 100K more than some of those other options. Midfield is just 4 here with Oliver. Does that mean we're skimped elsewhere? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so this is just 11 premium team. Oh, this is especially concerning. Okay, so this I don't like. There's 139K. Okay. Wouldn't mind getting Sheed and a better M8. Yeah, so the problem with this team is it's 11 premiums and you're still running a poor M8, which is not good. So given none of these picks are new, how would you actually fix that? I mean, it's got to be Oliver down, right? Even if you go Oliver down to McRae, that's 75K on your 139. That's 215. You put that on 123K, I think you get to Sheed. That's probably how you do it if you wanted to have Sheed in that side. Fix up that M8 spot. All right, honestly, pretty content with the team right now. If my mid price is the best 22 going around, I'll be confident go ahead with it. Defense, yep, looks great. Instead of Yo, it's got Bose. I think that's fine if you're not a Yo enjoyer. And then Cotfield instead of Ginby. which is also fine depending on how things roll. Midfield, no value 500k options, but does have Sheed instead for premiums. English Marshall, and then 3, no Rosie, said going for Cogs. I mean, this team looks good, yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, I mean, I think the only problem is just the 11 primo. You'll be coming up against 12. You kind of have to hope that your mid prices hit to make up for that gap. Vitel is a lot of money on the bench, but if it's the best option, it's the best option. Yeah, I can see why you'd be happy with this team. It feels solid. All right. Is it botan or botan? It's always weird. You read these things every day and you say it one way in your head, and then you realize that it might not be the way it's intended to say. But let's have a look. So deeper defense, which I think was more popular when SuperCoach first opened. I think 3 premiums is kind of more popular. I think 2's at least the meta in the Discord at the moment. 4 in the midfield, no value option until you get to Hopper. English Marshall, 3 here. So this is 3, 4, 7, 12. Okay, standard 12. Any bad rookies on? I guess you got Bytel here, who we don't know how he will go, but if he's a good option, then yeah, it could be fine. Philippou here, which is, yeah, potentially a fine option. I reckon he probably gets games early. I don't know if the role's going to be good enough, but should be okay. 110k in the bank here. 110k in the bank. So there's actually money to play with here. Although what you would do with it, I don't really know. I guess like Philippou to someone like a Flanders you could do, or a Bytel to someone like a Flanders if that came out. But this team seems fine. There's nothing that's glaringly wrong. I think the 110k gives you flexibility to move in different ways depending on what goes on. I guess the only questions that someone like a team like this would have to ask themselves is, if Yo looks really good through the preseason, how do you get him into your side? Are you getting rid of one of your defenders and then, putting him down to Yo, having him at D3, which we've seen a lot of so far, and then spreading the cash elsewhere, either on mid prices or getting another premium? What would you do? I think that's probably the big question. All right, Damo. Demerit Points is a good team name. Okay, so this is interesting. It kind of answered maybe the last question a little bit, because this is a 3 premium team that has Yo in it and has done it by cutting a premium mid. Ooh, okay, we've got Miller, Flanders, Allen. That's a stacked forward line. McLean's in the midfield. King's on the bench. Whoa. Okay, what's going on? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So there's 11 premium team, which is why it's got every mid-pricer you could imagine and a lot of cash on the bench. Did Damo leave any notes? M3 is the spot I'm struggling with the most. Prefer McRae or Steele at that spot, but it all depends on rookies. Cheaper M3 and Allen. First McRae, Steele, if fit, and Philippou. Not sure on some of the mid-price. It all depends on preseason. I mean, I think that's the right way to think about it. Miller and Flanders could be culled from this pretty quickly. King down to 123k gives you 50k. Plus the 1970 that gets green to like Steele. Wouldn't get you McRae though. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing default. It's just 11 premiums. It's a little bit sketchy. Depends on how much you like Sheed, but if you do, this is a fine setup. It's also unique. Like, having only just the 3 premium mids, I think, is pretty unique from what we've seen so far. It does set you apart. Having the 3 premium defenders and Yo sets you apart. So it's funny because it's a team that has lots of picks that look like other teams, but the structure actually makes it unique. And it's one of the things that we talk about with ownership percent not mattering as much, because you could look at a lot of these players and say like, oh, they're all highly owned, but the configuration of this team makes it actually very unique compared to other things we've seen so far, despite high ownership players, which is cool to look at. And then lastly, Sal's team got in lucky last. All right, what's new here? Jones is new. Haven't seen any Jones. Cogs in the midfield. Did we see that in one other team? Cameron, which we've seen. Okay, all right. Still left a new pick to last. That's good. So Jones, I don't like. Sorry, you left it to last. You get roasted. Just hasn't scored that well. There's other options like Ginby or Bose that I prefer that are either 50k cheaper or 50k more expensive. Jones could do better than all of them, and if you like him and you think he's going to excel and he's going to go 75 or whatever it is in that role, by all means, you have the job security. That's fine. Probably not my type pick at the moment. I think I'd rather have Ginby in the cash if I was being honest. Which I am, if I was being honest. Like, I lie about this stuff. What? No, I just tell you the truth. Okay, so I'm going a little bit loopy here. I'm getting close to the hour mark, and it's all falling apart for me. Okay, so let's count those premiums. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 premium team. I'm counting Cameron in there. Some people won't. Whatever. It counts. You're picking him as a premium, basically. You got to hit on these value premiums for the 12 to be true, but that's what you're doing. Okay, so the four forward thing is the thing I would get out of this team. How I would do that is I would get out of cogs. I'd probably put someone like Ginby in instead, or some other mid rookie, but probably Ginby, and then I would put Jones up to another premium defender, or I would turn Jones into Ginby, and I would put cogs up to someone at the 600k mark, Steele, McRae, these types. That's what I prefer, but I know a lot of people like cogs and want to start all 4 forwards, and that's fine if that's your jam. But there's nothing else that's really wrong here. I mean, Bruce at 161k is a little bit of wasted money on the bench, but if it's the best option and he's going to score on that role, don't mind having him there, especially given some of the other injury-prone players we're going to be starting in their forward lines. Don't mind it. Okay, so lucky last, let's see if I can pull this up, is going to be the team that is like the template. The combined, it's got 1,500 left. It's the combined template of all the teams we've seen so far. Put it together quickly, basically tallied up each of the picks, how common they were. And then as we kind of got to the end, and there might have been a few drawn that were in like, I don't know, 5, 6 teams or whatever, and they were the last spots, kind of just fiddled around until we got something that looked right, and used up the money kind of appropriately. Here's what we've got. The first 8 in defense is I'm sure we've seen that multiple teams. I said I'd start this defender line. I really like it. That's a great back 8. Yeah. Midfield, so Oliver, Bont, Steele, Mitchell, Hopper, Flanders, Ashcroft, Phillips. I mean, you can see Flanders is probably a forward option, but to use up the money and to hit some of those popular options, landed there. Johnson, Baker, Drury, English, Marshall, Madden, and then Dunkley, Cogs, Rosie, Taranto, Allen, McLean, Green, and Van Rooyen. If you've been listening to the whole video so far, you will know that what I would change personally about this is I'd be getting rid of Cogs. I'd be putting in an extra midfielder, probably Green or LDU. And then I'd be finding probably another mid-pricer to get in that forward line. Although, I'd swap Flanders in. I'd swap Cogs out to LDU or Green, and that'd be perfect for me. I really like this as a template team. I think this is great. Things that we'd be looking at changing probably some point is depending on what happens with English news, Steel news. Those are the two that I'd have the heaviest watch on. There's a few players like Bose that aren't in this team that you need to have a good eye on as well. Miller as well, you need to have an eye on. But I really like this is a very solid template. So you can see that the people that have signed up for the preseason package, they are good thinkers because it's a very solid team that we've got from combining each of their individual teams. But yeah, that's everything. That's the team review done for those early joiners as a little bit of a thank you. The template we got off the back of it, I really like. Like, yeah, I'm very proud of this. Very proud of this. I'm sure a lot will change in the preseason, and this may look bad in 30 days from now. But as of what are we, the 30th of January? This is a very nice looking team. But thank you all for joining me. I hope you've learned something. If you have any questions about how we analyze teams or any of the players that I called out, didn't like, etc., please post them down below. Otherwise, if you are interested in the preseason package or the Discord, join us and talk to us about it there. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Thank you very much.